In 1917, the dissatisfaction with Tsar Nicholas II led to his overthrow in the February Revolution, which brought an end to the Russian monarchy. It was replaced by a provisional government headed by Georgy Lvov, the new de facto leader of Russia. Officially, his position was called Minister Chairman. During his tenure, Lvov presided over a series of fleeting reforms which sought to radically liberalize Russia. Universal adult suffrage was introduced, freedoms of press and speech were granted, capital punishment abolished, and all legal restrictions of religion, class, and race were removed. In late March, a delegation of women suffragettes planned to lobby Lvov for the right of women to vote in local government elections. Expecting a very strenuous battle, the suffragettes were shocked to learn that Lvov had already granted women the right to vote, saying, "Why shouldn't women vote? Surely with universal suffrage there can be no reason to exclude women." Lvov's reforms helped create a new culture of democracy in Russia. In March of 1917, Alexander Kerensky, the member of Duma, became Minister of Justice in the provisional government. In May, he became the new Minister of War and Navy. During this time, he was very popular among the more left-wing revolutionaries. The military heavily criticized Kerensky for his liberal policies, which included stripping officers of their mandates and handing over control to revolutionary-inclined soldier committees instead. They also opposed his other policies like abolition of the death penalty and allowing revolutionary agitators to be present at the front. Kerensky was a big proponent of Russia, saying in the Great War and continuing to fight on the Allied side. In late June 1917, in an effort to bolster support for the war effort through triumph in battle, Kerensky authorized a military offensive on the Eastern Front. The offensive began on the 18th of June 1917 and continued to the 6th of July. The Russian soldiers initially saw victory over the Austro-Hungarian forces, whom they managed to take by surprise. But German troops soon began a counteroffensive that devastated the Russian army. The offensive was met at home with extreme disfavor and discontent, creating an opposite effect of what the government intended. Rather than creating support for the provisional government, disorder on the front continued and dissatisfaction with the government and its disastrous policies grew. During the offensive, spontaneous armed demonstrations by soldiers, sailors, and industrial workers broke out against the provisional government. Most of the people who protested were the supporters of the Bolshevik Party led by Vladimir Lenin. The provisional government blamed the protests on the Bolsheviks. After they'd stopped the protests, they launched a subsequent crackdown on the Bolshevik Party, and it was dispersed, with many of the leadership figures arrested. Vladimir Lenin fled to Finland, while Leon Trotsky was among those arrested. The protests would become known as the July Days. They undermined Minister Chairman Lvov, who resigned from the position on July 20th. As a result, on the next day, Alexander Kerensky became the new minister chairman, making him the new de facto leader of Russia. The new leader immediately faced a new challenge to his rule. Quickly after he'd become leader, Kerensky appointed a popular general, Laver Kornilov, as commander-in-chief of the army. Kornilov came to regard the provisional government as lacking the backbone to dissolve the increasingly powerful Petrograd Soviet and saw the government unworthy of survival. On August 27th, after several ambiguous exchanges with Kerensky, who desired to bring the Soviets to heel but not to eliminate the institution, Kornilov ordered General Krymov to lead the Savage Division and the 3rd Cavalry Corps on an assault of Petrograd. As a result, in Petrograd, the Petrograd Soviet, most notably the Bolsheviks, were given ammunition and arms in the event that Kornilov's troops should arrive at Petrograd and combat be necessary. Leon Trotsky was released from prison so he could assist in defending Petrograd. By August 30th, Kornilov's army had lost a large number of soldiers, and with no more support for Kornilov's movement, the uprising had come to a bloodless end. As a result of this Kornilov affair, Alexander Kerensky made himself the new commander-in-chief of the army. In mid-September, Kerensky declared Russia a republic, with him as minister-president. He faced a major challenge. Russian participation in the war was becoming even more unpopular. The people were disappointed as they expected that the provisional government would end Russia's participation after the February Revolution. By autumn 1917, an estimated 2 million men had unofficially left the army. Kerensky continued Russia's involvement in the Great War, thinking that a glorious victory was the only road forward, and fearing that the economy, already under huge stress from the war effort, might become increasingly unstable if vital supplies from France and from the United Kingdom ceased flowing. Meanwhile, the Bolsheviks were promising peace, land, and bread, which strongly increased their popularity. The possibility of a Bolshevik coup strongly increased after the Kornilov affair because of Kerensky's decision to arm them so they could fend off Kornilov's attack. After Kornilov's attack had failed, the Bolsheviks still continued to possess those weapons. Kerensky's days as a leader were numbered. After deciding to launch a coup, the Bolsheviks instigated the October Revolution in hopes of seizing complete power. Kerensky's government in Petrograd had almost no support in the city. Only one small force, a subdivision of the 2nd Company of the 1st Petrograd Women's Battalion, also known as the Women's Death Battalion, was willing to fight for the government against the Bolsheviks. But this force was overwhelmed by the numerically superior pro-Bolshevik forces, and they were defeated and captured. The Bolsheviks overthrew the government rapidly by seizing governmental buildings and the Winter Palace. Kerensky escaped from Petrograd and flew to Pskov, where rallied troops in an attempt to retake the city. His troops came to the town of Tsarskoye Selo and advanced to Pulkovo, where they were beaten. Kerensky then spent the next few weeks hiding, but then fled the country to France. He remained neutral in Russia's civil war, and he supported the Soviet Union during Germany's invasion of the country. He later worked as an academic in the United States and died in 1970 at the age of 89. Perhaps his largest legacy remains his decision not to take Russia out of the war and to strengthen the Bolsheviks during the Kornilov affair, which then led to the October Revolution and the establishment of the Soviet Union.